Military startups are changing the world, some for good and others not so good. How will military startups impact our world? Today, let's take a look at some of the most insane startups that are going to change the military and the world forever, and what that might mean for us here in the good US of A. Hey there, my name is Chris Graby. I invest in startups and I teach everyday investors how they can invest in startups as well. Today, we're diving into the crazy world of military startups. When we start talking about militaries and startups, we have to start with the elephant in the room. And this is whether you believe the US is in a proxy war around the world right now, or that the military industrial complex is running the show. Or if you believe none of that is actually happening, there is a very real truth, and you have to admit it. Countries have always and will always continue to increase the size and the technological footprint of their military. So with that comes a lot of money. And in the case of the United States, that comes to the tune of $857.9 billion of funding in 2023 for national defense. Now, this spending currently makes up around 12% of all federal spending as a whole. Now, with this large sum of money up for grabs in the form of federal grants and government contracts, this sets the stage for startups who are building new technology to swoop in and get huge paydays. So let's take a look at those startups that are gunning for those contracts and those dollars and bringing in billions of taxpayer dollars every single year. We cannot talk about military and spending without talking about drones. Now, there is a recent startup that I discovered based out of Boise that's not only in the world of drones, but they are focused on anti-drone technology, meaning their drones are focused on taking down the enemy's drones. They have built their flagship product called, get this, the Sawtooth. That's not a name of a drone killer. I don't know what is, but look, this startup that I'm talking about is High Point Aero Technologies, and their tech was so impressive that they actually got acquired by a larger entity. And get this, they just landed a $900 million contract from the military. Let's move away from drones and let's talk about something a little bit easier. We're going to talk about the world of military equipment and corrosion. Did you know that corrosion costs $20 billion annually? That's right. The government is spending around $20 billion a year to replace corrosive products and vehicles that are out there. So what does that mean? That means there is a ton of money up for grabs for any startup that could fix this problem. Remember, I don't care if the startup's in the military world or if it's in alcohol beverages or if it's in babies' diapers. If you can solve a problem, people will pay you money. Let's talk about a company that solved this problem. They're a Pennsylvania-based company called Muscle Polymers. Now, they just landed a contract with the United States Air Force to develop anti-corrosive coating. And this is a small niche of the niche, but it's a $20 billion niche. The last startup that I want to share with you is one that's bringing the world of artificial intelligence and fighter drones together. Now, this sounds like something you definitely want on your side and not the other guy's side. I know I do. The startup I'm talking about is called Shield AI, and they're the developer of this AI fighter pilot, and they manufacture these autonomous drones that patrol the sky and are out there looking for a fight. As you can imagine, with what's happening all around the world every single day, escalations, you can't turn on the news and not hear something about some kind of military attack all around the world. So companies like this are crushing it. They just did a funding round back in December of 2023, and they raised $100 million. But get this, they did it at a $2.8 billion valuation. As I mentioned earlier, this is an $850 billion industry, and it is constantly growing every single year. And there are tons of startups that are looking to cash in and make their money. Now, let's talk about the biggest question that we all probably have right now. Is it right to invest in these private companies who are building products for the military. Well, for me, like most, I don't love war, but good, bad, or indifferent, if we aren't currently in a war, we're probably more than likely preparing for one that's coming down the line, which means there will always be opportunities inside of this space. So the real answer to this question ultimately comes down to each individual investor. And really, it comes down to the startup. The adhesive startup that's eliminating corrosion, great. That's a clear, smart bet. But if you're not into drones and what they do, then I would say that investment really probably isn't for you. But at the end of the day, it's a really fine line. We get to potentially fund and support startups that, on one hand, could protect and keep civilians safe, but on the other hand, are basically killing machines. Look, defense spending is never coming back down. Here in the US, military spending has gone up or has stayed flat every year since 1960, except for one, 1991, and it dropped by a few $billion. Investing in this sector, look, the thing you got to know is it's risky. It's risky investing in anyone, but mainly in these startups that are focused on a military timeline, try and get contracts. Oh my gosh, it can be so long and take forever, meaning that a startup could actually go broke trying to prove their product is viable, get it approved for actual use, and then landing that big contract where the money finally comes in. There's a lot of cash that's outlaid on the front end. So that is always something that you as an investor or I as an investor have to consider before diving into a startup. So would I invest in this sector? The answer is yes. If it was the right startup and the path to returns made sense, then it's a no-brainer. I'm jumping in. Look, there's no denying these startups are changing the world, some for good and some clearly not so much for good. But I want to hear from you. What would you do? Are you investing in private companies who are focused on developing tech and weapons for the military? Drop it down in the comments. I want to know. Look, if you're new to the world of startup investing and you didn't realize that in 2016, laws changed that made it possible for anyone to invest in startups, well, I've got good news. I'm here to help you and give you the top 10 startups that I'm watching right now. These are the hottest startups in 2024, and I'm giving them away completely and totally free. Yes, these are startups that you can invest in right now. All you have to do is hit the link down in the description down below, and you get my PDF guide where I break it all down, what I'm looking at in these startups, what I like about them, and some of the risks involved as well. Look, startup investing does not have to be scary. I've invested in 25 plus startups alongside Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary. I love it. I'm all in. And this is my invitation to you to come learn about this exciting new world. Click the link in the description to get the top 10 startups that I'm watching right now. Hey, if you like this video, I know you're going to love this one right here, and you will definitely love this one right here.